So I'm with Andrew Girdwood from Big Mouth Media, and we were talking about news SEO yesterday, and yeah, you're really keen on it.
It's one of my favourites.
So yeah, why exactly?
Oh, because it's a different playing ground, different rules. I mean, physically different rules. For example, Google News will reject your page if it's too fragmented. For web search, that's not even a consideration. How many times you look at your content and go, oh, this is too fragmented? Never. Google News, for example, will only look at news stories which are up to 4 days old. If you're older than 4 days, or Google cannot work out how old that page is, you're not valid. Now, Google News will report back when it decides not to include a page, but only after 4 days.
Right.
You see, it's just those rules, and the fact that there's a little bit more transparency from the Google News team. They do actually publish these rules that make it particularly interesting. People ask, is there a different algorithm? Well, yeah, there's different rules, but rather interestingly, there's only one spider. There is no Google News spider. It's still Google Vault. So for things like first click free for news, you have to identify that through IP addresses and the rules that Google give you. It's not a simple case of going, this is a Google News spider, therefore I'm going to treat it like that.
Right, and Google News sitemaps, are they kind of critical to getting onto Google News?
Yes, I mean, the Google News strategy is scoop. Do you want to go first with this story? And 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, you do. So you want Google News to see your page as quickly as possible. And of course, the very best way to get Google to look at something new is the sitemap, followed by ping, which is often quite good. Your sitemap should be as thorough as possible. With a Google News sitemap, you can actually say the keywords you want your story associated with. Another must-do is you can specify the stock tickers of any story, of any companies you mention in the story, which again is really, really good, especially if you want to hit Google Finance, which is another massive traffic driver. I mean, you look at Yahoo Finance, and that's still one of Yahoo's prime properties.
Right, okay. And the way that does, with SEO PR, we're now seeing that, putting video embedded in press releases is a good thing. Does that kind of thing happen for Google News?
Google News, yes. You see more and more newspapers are trying to do more with rich media, with videos and images. There's no such thing as a video news sitemap, but there is a video sitemap.
Right.
Of course, anyone can write a video sitemap, but you need to be pre-approved before you can write a news sitemap. So we're not yet seeing Google News including videos in their feed, but images are very important. You've seen the Google News clusters, as we call them, and that's a breaking popular story with maybe 100 or more, sometimes up to 800 people writing about it. You might get first 4 or 5 stories clustered together, but to the left there'll be a thumbnail.
Right.
And that will be taken from a much smaller pile of newspapers. And if your newspaper or indeed a blog or content site is providing that image, you will get a big chunk of the traffic related to that news story.
Right, okay. And syndication, traditional publishers often syndicate to other magazines. How do we get around the problem of my story being syndicated and then Google News preferencing, a version of it in Australia rather than the UK and things like that?
No easy answer to that. Some newspapers will syndicate on the proviso that you do not let these stories into Google News. Other newspapers will syndicate after a small delay. And that could be as much as 5 minutes, which is not really a noticeable real-time delay, but it can be enough for you to get your story into Google News first. Other problems occur when you have a newspaper group with fewer domains than they have newspapers. So you might be newspaper group /Liverpool or newspaper group /Manchester, and they might both put the same story on it. And there you'll have the local franchise newspapers fighting over the same space in Google News, because only one of them is really going to get the Google News inclusion.
Right, okay. And any tips for breaking a story via Google News?
Yes. First of all, you have to appreciate you can never tell a journalist how to write, nor should you. I'd always design the story for the human reader, but try and think about how people are going to refer to the story. I remember during the Mayor of London elections, lots of writers talked about Red Ken, meaning Ken Livingstone, but the search frequencies for Red Ken were just not there. So perhaps you want to get the balance right. Some of the work we've done with newspapers is to do a little chart of which journalists had the most popular news story that week. In fact, we do this in Big Mouth Media because our news section feeds Google News as well. A little summary of who got the best stories. And you're not telling journalists how to write, but sometimes the journalists, if they wish to write a popular story according to Google News, they're very smart, and so they can adapt their headline style and body content style appropriately. And that sometimes works quite well.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.